Namaamsi Bhuyamsi. A very good morning to all of you. A warm welcome to all of you. Happy World Theatre Day today, and the best wishes for the World Philosophy Day and International Women's Day celebrations. This seminar on Indian thoughts on language, literature, and morality by women philosophers is one of its kind. I'm happy that we, the Department of Philosophy, at Manipal University, with Manipal University Jaipur and Indian Council of Philosophical Research, are organizing it, and you all are participating in it. Thank you for taking your time for this event. Due to being supposedly a primary contact of COVID infected 3 people, I continue to be in quarantine for more than a week, and I hope internet does not mess up today. If there is any problem, please let me know. I'll put off my video off in that case for better stream. I would like to begin with a trivializing trivia. I watch all animated movies, including the Tom and Jerry series of 1940s, and read all comics like Calvin and Hobbes of Watterson, as I'm a big fan of these. Those who are interested in epistemology, a philosophical domain, or otherwise called theory of knowledge, for them, these genres are really bothersome. Not for the same reasons that Tom and Jerry or MCU or DC tele and print versions bothered the American and global public at once. That was the concern of psychology and social science. Here it bothers because of the epistemological problem called anthropocentrism. Despite being aware of it, anthropocentric perspectives portrayed in these versions, I can't give away my fandom of cartoons because they are philosophically loaded for me, and I continue to fight with my friend on this topic. The point here is our perspective, our worldview. That is the primary concern. A concern of empiricism, like the debate between Occidentalism and Orientalism, global North versus global South. Similarly, in most of the cases, how do we derive or generate or produce knowledge? Mostly through perception and then reasoning and interpretation, as Indian epistemologists claim. And Jayatirath states in his Pramana Paddhati, our first publication of Manipal University Press, Pratyaksha Anumana Agamaihi iti Brumaha. Perception, inference, and language. But who observes and documents? Historically, it is mostly men, not just men. Because most of the philosophical, historical, scientific fiction literatures are all mostly written by men. Okay, but what's the problem? It is similar to the epistemic problem found in anthropocentrism, that is, human-centric worldview. Similarly, a male-centric worldview. Here arises an interesting school of thought that says, unless there are multi-perspectivity of truths, a certain human society is disadvantaged, marginalized. This school of thought is feminist epistemology. Despite there are advanced debates in this area, the scholars who are working in this area are very few, and the literature being produced also few. Now, this is the time that the tables are to be overturned. Women are ought to take lead. Their Weltanschauung is to be considered. Even these departments like philosophy and others should be led by a woman. Their efforts should come forth. The strangulating knots of gendered perspectives should be untangled. But was this the case in India? That is why the seminar on Indian thoughts on humanities by women. About the distant past of India, scholars like Thapar, Doniger, Pollock, Sen have maintained that India has also encouraged women-led debates, even though apparently less. Ananda Tirtha or Acharya Madhva, the proponent of Dvaita philosophy, also has stated this in his Brahmasutra Bhashya, Ahura Pittamastrinam Adhikarantu Vaidike. In this connection, to set the tone for this seminar, I would like to begin with a quote of my friend and colleague who was supposed to be here. With the proliferation of opportunities, in quotes, with the proliferation of opportunities in the present world, human life encounters disparate choices and situations that bear directly on decision-making processes and our attitude towards social, moral, and intellectual environment. In this context, the philosophical debates and discourses offer rationally persuasive insights, thus enabling us to understand the multi-perspectivity of truths by listening, examining, and contemplating. Now, this sets the tone for this seminar, and here I would also like to recall the translation of Brihadaranyaka done by the same friend that emphasizes the quote that emphasizes on philosophizing, Shravana, Manana, Nididhyasana. Listening, examining, and contemplating. The self and truth are unconcealed by listening, examining, and contemplating upon Maitreyi. Once it manifests, listened, examined, and contemplated, all is unconcealed. This Upanishad is one of the biggest and highly regarded in Vedanta philosophy. The dialogue between Yajnavalkya and his wives, Gargi and Maitreyi. This Upanishad, which provides sharpest edge to the intellectual interrogation, has drawn attention of all scholars, including social scientists of politics and economics, Pandit Nehru and Amartya Sen. Not just this one. There are a couple of other instances as well from the epic literatures where we can find women intellectual warriors in the episodes of Sulabhajanaka Samvada, Draupadi Satyabhama Samvada, and other such dialogues that are verily provocative and evocative. So, what has been those debates? What were the scholarly women perspectives? We are about to listen to three distinguished speakers, Dr. Shivani on language, Dr. Meera on literature, and Dr. Geetesh on morality. My friend Tanima Nigam, a philosophy faculty at Manipal, whom I mentioned earlier, was supposed to speak today. Sadly, she is infected with COVID and is missed here. I'm really thankful to all these speakers who have taken out their time to share their well-researched knowledge with us. I welcome all those speakers. I welcome Dr. Meera and our Manipal University Jaipur. Thank you for Meera for collaborating with us in this seminar. I also wish many happy returns of the day to today's first speaker, Dr. Geetesh, whose birthday is today. I welcome Shivani Chechi, who is an exceptional Sanskrit scholar, rose to the cadre of Dean in Sanskrit academics, so quickly displays her scholarship. I would like to extend a warm welcome to our Vice Chancellor, Lieutenant General Dr. MD Venkatesh for this occasion, who kindly consented to preside over the event. When I went to him saying that we are planning this seminar and we have applied for a small financial support from ICPR, he expressed overwhelmingly, don't hesitate to organize such seminars of academic and historical significances. You do it, I'm there to support. Thank you so much, sir, for your unconditional support. We welcome you. The very important person, Neeta, when I was having a discussion with my fellows, they said it is a historical event, hyperbolically, I guess, even in Indian academia, as it is all led by women philosophers. So we have to invite our own Akka, who has accomplished several rare feats in her over a decade journey in Manipal. Establishment of MCES, Jean Monnet Chair, Jean Monnet Center of Excellence within a decade, many Erasmus projects and fellowships, 200 titles under Manipal Universal Press within a decade. So she stands as an epitome of successful women in Indian academia, along with other distinguished speakers. A welcome with a lot of hugs, Akka. Thank you for accepting our invitation to be the chief guest. I welcome you all ardent listeners who are present online despite today being a weekend. A special welcome to Indian Council of Philosophical Research, ICPR, which has provisionally agreed to support this event. There are several people who have worked hard behind the curtains for this event. To all those my colleague friends and well-wishers, a warm welcome to all of you. Now I request Professor Neeta to address the August online gathering. Thank you.
Respected Vice Chancellor, General Venkatesh, and all those who are present here, Sir, I seek your permission to go ahead and to begin with this conference, this seminar.
Please, ma'am, please go ahead.
Thank you so much for your support throughout in last few months that we have seen for humanities and social sciences and the grand plans that lay ahead of all of us in the times to come. I just would like to make a mention here of the effort that are put in by Srini and his colleagues in putting together this seminar on Indian thoughts on language, literature, and morality. So even before I begin, I would like to begin with a disclaimer that I am no philosopher. All that I think I know is a few philosopher friends, through whom I have been trying to understand a little bit of philosophy here and there, but that doesn't in any way make me even closer to what probably philosophers are made of. But why probably Srini thought of having me on this occasion is just the matter that I'm a woman. But it's not just a woman, because every woman is special in her own way, and that's my belief. And if Srini thought of bringing together the World Philosophers' Day and International Women's Day, I think it is something like a substantial effort in trying to make a very clear proposition that it's time we recognize the contribution of women philosophers. And when we look at women philosophers, it's not about women philosophers only in India, but also elsewhere in the world. So, in fact, I think just 2 days ago in Scroll, there was this article on around 6 wise women who shaped the development of women philosophy in the entire world. Very interestingly, of course, it only talks about 6 women philosophers like Aspasia of Miletus, Clea, Thecla, Sosipatra, Macleanor the Younger, and Hypatia of Alexandria. Of course, it leaves out completely any of those who lived almost at the same time. If you look at 7th or 8th century BC in India, whether it was Gargi or Maitri or Sulabha, who also existed in the early Vedic or the later Vedic periods. Of course, there is this politics of knowledge that always the West makes as a fundamental or the mainstream, and the rest all are seen as those aligning with at a later period, and it is always seen through the Western lens. Of course, on one hand, we are dealing very largely with this politics of knowledge, and as if it's not enough, we are also entangled in this politics of gender simultaneously. So, how do we deal with both of them at the same time? So that is probably the question that I would like to pose to philosophers, women philosophers who are gathered today to take the discussion forward. And if we also look at whether it was Sosipatra or Aspasia, all these people, if you see, in fact, Aspasia was a teacher to Socrates. And Socrates says he learned a good deal from Aspasia, but how many of us know about her? Why do we hold only Socrates at that level of intellectual contribution to the entire world, whereas Aspasia is just probably somewhere appearing in some of the literature about Socrates maybe. So why are her contributions not being studied? So why, and also very interestingly, if you see most of these women philosophers, whether it was in the West or in India, we see they were all either, some of them, so they had to be mystics. They had to be, one of them was a priestess. And if you look at Aspasia, she was basically, I think, a foreign mistress for the ruler Pericles. So all of them had these very different lives. And in India, when you think of, generally these questions are raised about what about women philosophers in India, people just say that why don't they, having to heard of Gargi or Maitri or Silva. So, but what about their contribution? Are we discussing about their major philosophical propositions somewhere and discoursing around them? So that doesn't come across even after the Vedic period. Of course, probably today I think Dr. Shivani is going to speak about some of the philosophers that come from the epic literature, from Ramayana and Mahabharata. And of course, apart from that, also we have had Avayars in the Tamil Sangam literature during the Sangam period, the 1st and 2nd century CE, we had Andal in 8th century, and then we had Akka Mahadevi in 12th century Karnataka. And there's so much written about them, but even if you look at Akka Mahadevi's contribution that we know very closely, it is only about her being a mystic. Okay, and then we of course had somebody like Lal Ded. I don't know how many people know about Laleshwari or Lal Ded in the 14th century Kashmir Shaivism school of philosophy. She wrote quite some poetry which has been very intriguing for only those very select philosophers who are interested in this kind of works. Then of course there was Mirabai in 16th century. But if you look at all of them, we only see that there's some level of all of them had very different lives. Either they were single, they never married. So if you look at Gargi, Maitreyi, Sulava, I think all of them remained single. So why was it? Why did they need to have a very different kind of life than other women at their times? So what is this social structure? My interest, of course, is more about the social structures in which these women had to struggle and strive despite all obstacles. And was there any particular social pressure that actually it's probably some underlying or the undercurrents of patriarchy which uh, made it almost like a compulsion for them to have this mysticism attached to them. Were they really mystics? Or did they not have any option but to appear as mystics if they had to propose their ideas to the rest of the world? So even today, if we see in some of the universities, even in the West, they say 70 to 80% of the philosophy departments are only male dominated. So why this so much of, why is it, it's so gendered? Why there is such a gender imbalance, particularly in humanities across universities in the world? Maybe why there is such a low representation of women in these domains? Probably we need to raise some of the questions because there are people who are working in this field, like Lorraine Court. She calls it's like a mainstream epistemology as something she calls as a mainstream epistemology. So why is that happening? Why even people like Kant, of course, is very famously quoted saying that women do not have the ability to deal with very abstract ideas and therefore not meant for philosophy. I think our colleagues like Dr. Meera are going to raise these questions later. So even there is also this another, this perfect storm model which is being discussed, but maybe I leave that to our colleagues from philosophy later. But what I'm dismayed at is, despite all efforts, even in today's world, we see there are very, very few women philosophers. And every time, even there is a conference that's coming up, when you look at the big names, the supposed big names in philosophy, they're all men. I do not have problems with men philosophers as such, but the problem is, why are we not giving adequate space to women philosophers? Are there no enough platforms for them to come out and propose their own ideas, and that can generate a new kind of a scholarship? Are this these men scholars, is it something like an unimpeachable scholarship? And what women have got to offer is something tentative, doubtful, struggling to make its own place in the philosophical discussions. So one thing is very clear: we cannot enter the past politics, but we can definitely counter or confront the politics of the past now. And that's what I think, as women philosophers who are gathered here, should take on themselves, of trying to counter this politics of knowledge on one hand and the politics of gender that they'll have to deal with. I don't mean only the philosopher, women in philosophy they have to deal with. Everybody is together in his endeavor. And at this point in time, I would like to call on all women philosophers who are participating in this one-day seminar to come forward and make contributions which are more academic in nature. Do not stop only at these conferences, and maybe, because otherwise it will become only symbolic. I would rather say come out with a publication. And on behalf of Manipal Universal Press, I invite some of you to write a book take it as a project to bring to discussion women philosophers in India particularly, because in that case, you're also dealing with the politics of knowledge that is there at the larger global level, from between the global north and the global south. We are dealing with lots of complexities, and within all these complexities, we need to make a presence felt for ourselves. And I would like to invite those scholars who are present here to bring out maybe a book that Manipal University Press can actually publish at a later period. But I invite you, take your time, take a year or so, or 1.5 years, but do come out with a publication on women philosophers in India. And I wish the conference all the success. I wish the seminar all the success in the day ahead. And thank you very much for giving me this opportunity of being with you all on this occasion. Thanks.
Good morning, sir. I request you to deliver the presidential address.
Yeah. Thank you, Srini. And good morning, everybody. And I deem it my honor to be present on this very historic occasion of a seminar on Indian thoughts and language, literature and morality, jointly organized by MAHE, Manipal University, Jaipur, and Indian Council for Philosophical Research. I think I'm very happy also to see that this occasion is a celebration of three major events. World Philosophy Day, which was on the 19th of November, International Women's Day, on 8th of March, and the World Theatre Day that happens to be today. And my special greetings to all the wonderful women achievers who are part of this seminar. I think it's a path-breaking seminar, first of all, I understand, and it is going to be led by all women. Three distinguished speakers from Karnataka Sanskrit University, Professor Shivani, University of Delhi, Dr. Geetesh Nirban, and our own sister institution, Manipal University, Jaipur, Dr. Meera Baindur. And a very special mention to our dear colleague, Jean Monnet Chair, Dr. Neeta Inamdar, who is the chief guest for today. And I understand that this seminar is going to be moderated by Ms. Priya Poojary, a lecturer in European Studies department, in the Department of European Studies. So it's unfortunate that our young colleague, Ms. Tanima Nigam, is indisposed and will not be able to take part. We wish her a very, very speedy recovery. A discussion on philosophy and literature on a Theatre's Day signifies the literary importance of such seminar. Within the domain of liberal arts, both the disciplines of humanities and social sciences, with their distinct research approaches, ideographic and normothetic, they contribute to the larger domain of academia, paving solid foundations for theoretical and applied research. For example, medical humanities gives a first-hand account of patients' lived experiences. Computational linguistics, applied theoretical linguistics in the area of language, technology, and natural language processing. In this regard, a philosophical engagement with language, literature, and morality studies would strengthen our understanding of human civilizations, experiences, communications, and behavior. A big disclaimer, I am neither a philosopher, nor a linguist, nor a literary person, but I sure have interest in all three of these domains. A crucial aspect that is missed in all the academic fora is the feminist perspective, which has been highlighted by Dr. Neeta Inamdar, especially with regard to women philosophers. Since the dawn of civilization, in most parts of the world, it has been men who have written and discoursed on men and women. Even in literature of all forms, scientific and fiction, it is male-dominated, and it is the males who speak for women. However, there is a wider awakening now, and we do see a lot of very accomplished women who speak for themselves and speak for the women that they represent. So it's time that we also listen to our women colleagues. In the era where the education system is going for a thoughtful overhaul with the introduction of outcome-based learner-centric education system, a new national education policy, NEP 20, that stresses upon gender equality, which is also highlighted in one of the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, set in 2015. MAHE's philosophy department has stepped forward to discourse on what women scholars have to say and what women knowledge systems has offered. As NEP 20 emphasizes, we should not miss what our Indian traditions have contributed in this regard. The seminar also should not be merely be a discussion. Instead, it should pave the way for women occupying higher pedestal in academic and scientific world as researchers, professors, and administrators express themselves. And I really appreciate the thoughts expressed by Dr. Neeta Inamdar that there should be more written work by our women, especially the women philosophers. And I endorse her views that Manipal Universal Press would be interested to publish such works. MAHE as an institution of eminence has set its aim higher with gender equality and nature sensitivity as one of its top priorities, as the eco-feminist school of philosophy emphasizes upon. I'm extremely happy to be part of such a seminar, and I wish all the participants and all the resource persons and all the scholars and academicians who are attending this seminar a very, very enriching experience. And I wish the seminar all the very best. Thank you very much. Jai Hind.